I'm Steve Lutzenheiser with Molalla Communications, and I'm representing the Molalla Chamber of Commerce, and I'm here with Clarence Belnavis. And can you introduce yourself for us?
Sure. I am a partner with Fisher & Phillips, focusing on defending employers in labor and employment matters, handling all kinds of litigation and counseling issues for them.
What are the greatest risks faced by the employer today for, let's say, not drug testing?
Well, you find that many employers who do not drug test really do not recognize the extent of the problem that may exist in the workplace. Often they'll have high absentee rates amongst the employees. They'll also have high accident rates depending on the nature of the work environment. So you'll have folks, frankly, who are injuring themselves and others, and then you'll have lost productivity, the result of which people are just unable to come to work because of an addiction. Studies have been done that show that when you implement a proper drug testing program, putting your workforce on notice that that drugs are not permitted in the workplace and that you'll be checking up on them, that people will self-select out of your workplace if they have issues, and those who do not, you will tend to catch during the testing protocol. The end result is, frankly, increased attendance and lower injuries on the job.
You read in the newspaper, you read about different incidents where
Sure.
people that don't do drug testing, there's lawsuits associated with companies that have not done that. Have you ever experienced anything like that?
Well, just keep in mind that you may have an obligation by law to test. For example, school bus drivers, other job categories that are safety sensitive. There are all kinds of state and federal regulations that may require testing, and frankly, if you don't do it and somebody gets injured, that could result in litigation. The other time you see litigation, I think, is when folks think that you should have been on notice of an issue in your workplace and you failed to take proactive steps to deal with it. Then you could be negligent or be deemed to be negligent in not addressing those issues in your workplace.
Hearing you say is that implementing a drug policy actually saves you money. Is that correct?
Definitely. It can save you money in the long run.
You work with different companies, different employers and things.
Sure.
What is the most resonant, what is the most thing that you hear over and over and over again when they do implement a policy on why they're doing it?
More often than not, what I hear is that companies really want to make sure that they save as much money as they can. I mean, one of the things is it's not that expensive to implement a policy. It's relatively inexpensive, and the cost savings could be relatively significant. Once companies realize the difference in cost, what they could save by having a program versus what they could save by not having a program, it tends to sell itself. So I think a lot of companies will look at it and say, hey, this could save me money in the long run. Not only that, but a lot of companies, most companies, I would say, really care about their workforce, and it matters to them that the individuals who work in a specific environment are safely interacting with each other, such that they don't put anybody else at risk.
On the national statistics, how big a problem is use of drugs in the workplace?
I'd say approximately 1 in 10 individuals in any given workplace, they're using illegal drugs and alcohol. That statistic does not account for those folks who may be abusing prescription drugs.
Not only is there the costs that you mentioned earlier of accidents, absenteeism, things like that.
Sure.
But sometimes people that don't have a policy or have a poorly written policy may have a separation of an employee, a termination of an employee. Is there a cost associated with that?
Yeah, well, if the employee tries to work some sort of wrongful discharge angle, there may be additional costs dealing with that. Litigation is a very expensive prospect. In addition to that, you'll have to counsel the employer on how to extricate themselves from that situation. So there are attorney's fees associated with that as well.
So the cost associated with a case like that would include attorney's fees and court costs. And how much does something like that run?
That can run from a few hours to full-blown litigation. I could run you hundreds of thousands of dollars depending on the circumstance.
So hundreds of thousands of dollars compared to some drug testing. How much do the drug tests cost?
Relatively inexpensive, maybe $35, $75. It depends on the battery of tests that you're looking for, type of employer you are, arrangements that you've made with a provider, but it's relatively inexpensive. It is a cost savings mechanism.
Biggest risk, what is the biggest cost in not implementing a drug policy?
Potential risks of injury to co-workers when somebody who's using or abusing hurts someone else.
You mentioned that employer size doesn't seem to have a lot of relevance with the need for a drug policy within an employer. Is there any variance across industry? Does one industry need a drug testing policy more than another industry? Is there any norms there?
Great question. You know, once you take out those safety sensitive positions, those other positions like school bus drivers, airline pilots, those types of folks, frankly, we find that it affects all industries. There's a misconception that some manufacturing work environments may be more impacted than others. People are people, and they're people in every type of work environment, and this is an issue in all types of work environments.
So across the board, no matter what industry it is, it needs to happen.
It's a problem for everyone.